So let's take a look at this one here. This one's one that we've never seen before. So this one's fairly familiar to us. Okay, what's new is we're finding the max and min points using our horizontal tangents here. This is a little bit different because we don't really know much about it, but we can still start approaching it the same way. We can still find zeros. We still need to find those. We probably want to find the endpoint behavior. Okay, so let's start with the zeros. So x is equal to 0. We only look at the numerator. Okay, so when is 8x equal to 0 is when x is equal to 0. So it's going to cross the x-axis at 0, 0. That's the only 0 here. There's no vertical asymptotes. I probably want endpoint behavior, so I'm going to take the limit as x goes to negative infinity. And it looks like it's going to go to 0. And if I take the limit as x goes to positive infinity, same thing. The denominator is going to outgrow the numerator, so it's equal to 0. So we know we have a horizontal asymptote here. Okay, crosses there. We want to find increasing, decreasing regions, which will help us find max and min points. So we need to use a derivative. Okay, so we want f prime. So this is a quotient, so I need to apply quotient rule. So the derivative of the top times the bottom minus the top times the derivative of the bottom, which is 2x. Okay, we can cancel out some common factors here. This is 8x squared minus, this is going to end up being 16x. I'm going to put this together. So I'm going to end up with negative 8x squared plus 8 all over x squared plus 1 squared. Okay, when I factor out the negative, I'll factor out the negative 8. So that becomes negative 8 bracket x squared minus 1 over x squared plus 1 squared. So where the increasing and decreasing regions are going to be found is when I find where this slope is equal to 0. So slope is equal to 0 when x is equal to, when I solve this equation, it's going to be when x is equal to plus 1 and minus 1. So at plus minus 1, I'm going to have a slope of 0. At plus 1, I'm going to have a slope of 0. Okay, so I'm going to put that in my slope chart. This is what my slope chart is very useful for. I can test my slope. So if you know what's happening, we probably can guess at what's happening. But in this case, we really haven't seen this before, so I don't really know what's going on. What's going on in these regions? So I'm going to test. So I'm going to test f prime on the left of, I'm just going to get rid of that, and on this side of negative 1. So I'm just going to choose a nice number, negative 2. And I'm going to plug it into my derivative. So I'm going to end up with negative 2 squared is positive. Positive times negative divided by the denominator here is positive. So I'm going to have negative times positive is negative. So I know that this is a decreasing region. Okay, I've got 0 slope here. And then what's going to happen in between 1 and negative 1? Well, I can test. I'm going to find the f prime at 0. And if I plug in 0 into this equation, I get negative 1 times negative is positive. Okay, so, and I kind of was expecting that to change from negative to positive. Okay, so there it is. I've got my 0 slope, my horizontal tangent here. So that looks like to me that's going to be a minimum by looking at the slope chart, because it looks like it's going to go down. And that looks like a maximum because it's going up. I'm just going to complete my slope chart here. I expect it to be negative slope over here, but let's just double check. Plug in positive 2. I'm going to get positive times negative in the numerator. Well, that's negative. Yeah, I get negative slope. Okay. So I can use this slope chart then to kind of, and all the information I've got here to kind of draw it. So I can't draw it like this, because there's an asymptote there. But I do know it goes through the middle. There's a 0 here, so I know it goes through, I can't cross here because there's no 0 here and it's an asymptote. Okay, so knowing that, I can just kind of adjust my drawing here. I know that it's got to go like this. Okay, at -1, there's going to be a minimum point. It's going to cross through here. At +1, there's going to be a maximum point, and then it's going to go down to the asymptotes. There it is. Okay, so that's what the graph's going to look like. Okay, so using all that information, the asymptote, the 0, the max and min, there it is. I do want to find out where the y-coordinate is. This is a nice y-coordinate. So when x is 1, y is equal to, I plug it back into my original equation, 8 divided by 2 is going to be 4. So that's going to be at y equals 4. When x is equal to -1, I plug it in again, -8 divided by -1 squared plus 1, that's 2, so that's going to be -4. So then that coordinate has going to have a coordinate of -4. Okay, so there it is.